All right, everybody, are you ready to get creative with some foiling projects? I'm so excited to be bringing you today's video showcasing 5 ways to foil. Now, I'm going to preface this video by telling you that you don't have to have all the foiling tools. You don't have to have all the machines. There's going to be a little bit of something for everybody in today's video. Whether you are a novice foiler, maybe you've never done it before, or maybe you're an expert, I think there is something here for all of you to be able to try and experiment with some of these ideas, which are 5 different ways to foil. Now, most of my projects are going to be using toner foil, which is a foil transfer that can be accomplished by either using heat, pressure, or adhesive. And then my final technique will be showing you how to hot foil. They're both 2 different types of foiling. Neither one of them can be mixed together. The products that you use for hot foil are completely different than what you would use for toner foiling. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along here. So why don't we jump on into that toner foiling? And we're going to first foil on acetate sheets. Many companies, including Simon Says Stamp, have products that are toner printed on acetate that you can then foil transfer with many of your favorite toner foils. And I'm going to be using a gold foil today from our Simon Says Stamp and ThermWeb foil pack. I'm going to stack my acetate in 2 sheets of cardstock inside of a piece of parchment paper, which is going to be the carrier sheet that will take my foil and my acetate through a laminator. And I'm using the Heidi Swapp MINC machine, but if you have a standard laminator, use the hot setting on your laminator to transfer the foil. For those of you that have a mini MINC machine or the standard MINC, I'm using the heat setting of 3. So once my foiling has been completed, I will pull this out and lay it on my Positively Everything tool because this is a little bit hot and the silicone surface will keep my workspace protected. Here's that beautiful transfer onto the acetate. So this Merry Christmas was printed with just some toner ink on the acetate. These Merry Christmas sheets are from Simon Says Stamp. You get a whole pack of them, and they're great for making a variety of Christmas cards. You could foil a bunch of these and assemble them into beautiful cards for the holiday season and create a beautiful overlay on your project. So I've foiled a whole bunch of these that I'm going to turn into cards later. So we foiled on acetate. Foiling on paper is the same thing. And these are great for foiling as well. These happen to be spotty dots from ThermWeb and Laura Kelly. I'm going to use some rainbow foil from ThermWeb, and this is what I'm going to transfer onto these polka dots. Now, you could use any color of foil you'd like for this. The rainbow foil is really fun because it creates a multicolored effect very simply and easily on your project. So I will trim the foil down to be just a little bit bigger than my card itself. This is a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of paper that will work beautifully on a standard size card. I'm going to put this inside of my parchment paper sandwich along with the 2 pieces of cardstock. This is the sandwich that is created to transfer your foil onto your printed paper. Now, depending on your MINC machine or your laminator, you may not need 2 sheets of cardstock. You may need less, may need more. It all depends on your machine, so play around with it. I do encourage you to use a shim because a lot of times it gives just a little bit more pressure to help push that foil fully down onto your paper so it foils completely. So after running this one through my MINC machine, I'm going to go ahead and pull this back to reveal the gorgeous design that gets left behind on those printed dots. So anything that's printed with the toner is going to transfer that beautiful foil onto it. Now, the fun thing about this is that you always end up with a piece of leftover foil. And don't forget that you can use these to make cool card projects. Check out how the reverse of these spotty dots look on a piece of white cardstock. They're just spectacular. So I'll show you how to make that here in a minute. But depending on which direction you put a piece of foil like this shattered rainbow foil from ThermWeb onto a printed design, you're going to get a totally different look. And it makes for great cards, whether it's landscape or portrait. All right, so remember that leftover piece of foil we had from our first foiling? Well, we're going to use that. Just take a bit of spray adhesive and spray a piece of white cardstock or a card base really generously with that adhesive. Make sure it's a clear adhesive. Then you're going to take your piece of foil and you're going to gently lay it into that adhesive and give it a really good press. You want to make sure that you press on down on all the edges so that way none of the adhesive is left uncovered by that beautiful foil. And so then once you have that adhered down, you can just trim this up to be flush with the edges of your paper and you get a beautiful reverse effect with this technique. It's so much fun. All right, so why don't we move on to the next technique? This one is really cool because you don't have to have any special tools for this. All you need is a stencil. This happens to be our organic slimline dots from Simon Says Stamp, and some transfer gel duo. Now before I start the application of the paste, I'm going to start ink blending. By the way, have you seen our new Simon Says Stamp ink blending brushes? They are so cool, so beautiful. And there's a brush for every color. So because I love every color, I'm gonna go ahead and use them all, except for brown and gray, of course. I'm making a rainbow for my card here. So I'm just gonna blend a variety of Simon Says Stamp inks across this piece of white cardstock. And we'll turn this into a card. Once I get through all the techniques of the foiling ideas that I wanted to share with you, then I'll show you how I turn some of them into cards. Okay, so I'm blending the Simon Says Stamp inks across this white cardstock, creating this ink blended rainbow effect. And this is just going to be the base for my paste. You could apply this paste onto just plain colored cardstock. You could apply it onto white cardstock. You could apply it onto pattern paper. Whatever surface you want to apply your paste to, it doesn't matter. As long as it's something that's going to fit through your die cut machine or laminator. Because if you notice, this transfer gel's name was Duo. And that's a big key because this transfer gel can be applied through your stencil and then heat bonded or pressure bonded to your foil. It's a really cool product because it allows even those of you who don't have a laminator or other foiling tools and machines to be able to foil. And all you need is to apply some pressure. And I love doing that with my die cut machine. So what you're seeing me do here is apply that transfer gel duo through my stencil, which again is the Slimline Organic Dots. It's a new stencil from Simon Says Stamp. Once I've applied the paste through my stencil, I did a little bit of a slight textured distressed look here. I didn't quite totally make a full background with this, and I was a little bit rough around the edges because I was going for that look. I'm going to let this set aside and dry now. Completely dry. It's going to be clear, and that's when we know it's ready. Also make sure that you clean any of your tools that come in contact with the paste, including your stencil. So now that we have our transfer gel dried, it's ready to be foiled. I'm going to trim some of this shattered rainbow foil down to be a little bit larger than my card itself. And now our background is ready to be foiled. I will go ahead and put this into a piece of parchment paper just to protect the foil as I run this through my die cut machine. You don't need the laminator, though you could put this through the laminator. The foil can be applied to the transfer gel either with heat or with pressure, just like I told you. So you could run this through your MINC machine or laminator, but if you don't have one, just put it through your die cut machine and check it out. This is so cool, and it provides such a unique effect. I also especially loved how the rainbow foil looked with this particular background. But it's amazing that all you needed was a little bit of pressure to apply that foil onto the transfer gel, and it creates just an amazing effect. We're not done yet with the paste. We're going to bring that transfer gel out again, but this time we're going to do some multicolored foiling. This is a technique that I have loved for years. It's so versatile and so much fun. So I'm taking our Radiant Hearts stencil from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm taping it down onto my card base. We're going to bring that gel out once again, and this time we're going to apply it through this stencil. So I'm just going to use a really nice application. You want it to be somewhat thick, but you don't want it too thick that it's going to take forever to dry. So I kind of go for a skim coating. I'm not scraping the stencil clean completely, so it's just a skim right over top of the stencil, and you'll get a feel for this as you work with it. So here you can see my paste is completely dry, it's clear. That means we're ready to foil. So I've pulled out a variety of ThermoWeb foils. It's a full rainbow here. We've got red, yellow, or gold I should say, green, teal, and purple. You're going to cut your foil to be basically a little bit larger than the space that you're about to foil with. So in this case, I want each radiating heart stack to be colored with a different color of foil. So I'm kind of trimming these foils down to fit the ray effect that these hearts are designed in. Once you get your first piece of foil down, the rest is so easy because all you have to do is just overlap with the foil that you've already applied down prior to it. It's really simple. So it's not having to be super fussy unless you're going with a really detailed stencil. If you're doing something like this, it's so easy. So you're just going to apply your different colors of foil over the sections that you want a different color, and then you can trim off the excess so that it fits better inside of your machine. Again, we use Transfer Gel Duo, so we could use our laminator or MINC machine to heat set this foil into the paste. However, I want to show you that die cut machines work great for this as well. So again, we're going to run this through the die cut machine, and then that's going to allow us to peel our foil off and reveal the beautiful foil design that gets left behind. This technique is so much fun because it gives your stencils a completely new look when you apply this paste and create these really unique details like this. It's just so much fun. And I love the fact that I don't need any special tools to create this unique look. Just a little bit of paste, a stencil, and some foil, and that's all it takes to create a gorgeous foil design on your project. I want to give you another idea. Whether you have a foiling machine or not, you can still do this card as well. This time all you need is some double-sided tape. I love making stripes with the foil. It's such a cool look. It creates a lot of movement too. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some double-sided tape here. This just happens to be Scor-Tape. And we're going to start applying this in whatever pattern you'd like across your card. Now I'm going with the diagonal stripe pattern here just because that's what I was going for, and I'm applying them at every ½ inch. So do what you like best, do you. Your card's going to look cool no matter what you do. After you've covered your entire card with the amount of tape that you want for your project, then you'll want to trim off any excess that's hanging off the sides. Making sure you go all the way to the edge is important if you're planning on covering a full card base. The next step is to reveal the adhesive by pulling off the release paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that release paper, revealing the adhesive, and then the last step is to bring in your foil. So again, I'm going to use that rainbow shattered foil from Thermoweb. I'm going to trim this down to be just a little bit larger than my card so I have a bit of wiggle room. And then we're just going to lay this right into that foil. Give it a really good press. And then I do like to make sure I give it a bit of pressure. You could run it through your die cut machine. But if you don't have a die cut machine, you could also use a brayer. I'm using the Tim Holtz brayer here, and I'm just giving my entire card a really good press across every inch of it. Just so that way I get a really good impression of that foil into the adhesive. Then just pull that foil off to reveal the gorgeous pattern that gets left behind. This is just so cool, and it provides a unique look without having to have any special tools and materials. I'm also going to show you something cool about foil that you may or may not know of. It is a resist. So we'll get to that in a minute. All right, next up, we are going to foil sentiment strips. Everybody loves our Simon Says Stamp sentiment strips. I use them constantly because they're so great for making quick cards. But maybe you want a different color other than black or white because they're all printed black and white. If you take a little bit of foil, you can foil these because they're toner printed. Our sentiment strips are printed on high quality cardstock with toner ink. So which means you can take your foils and create gorgeous new looks, beautiful and shiny effects in whatever color of foil you have, and you get a really amazing, impactful result on your card project. So you could trim these down to be whatever size you'd like, and these sentiment strips just look amazing, and it gives them a totally new look, and it looks very professional. So it almost looks like you got this in an embellishment pack or something. It's just that good looking. Again, I'm going to do the same thing with another sentiment strip, but this time I'm using a multicolored foil, the rainbow foil from Thermoweb, just to show you a whole new look. So this is one of our reverse strips where it has the white printing, and we're going to reveal how that picks up the beautiful color. That black is now gone, and we have this stunning rainbow sentiment that just looks so cool. So this is another way that you can use our Simon Says Stamp sentiment strips with your foils to create a really beautiful impact on your card. I ended up using these sentiment strips on many of the card projects that I created today for this particular class. All right, now we've talked about a lot of toner foiling, whether it was applying it with transfer gel, on toner sheets, on tape. All of those projects that I just shared with you all used toner foil. But how about we create a totally new look by doing an impression with hot foil? Hot foil is created with the use of a plate, like this one here from Spellbinders. This one happens to be a peony. I'm going to go ahead and put this inside of my Glimmer hot foil system. This particular machine is designed to work with these plates. You can create gorgeous, beautiful foiled effects. What you need to do first is heat the plate up inside the machine. So I'm going to let this heat up until the light turns green where it says platform ready. Then I'm going to pull out my foil. Now this is totally different foil than toner foil. Toner foil isn't quite as delicate as hot foil. Hot foil doesn't work with toner products, and toner foil doesn't work with hot foil products. So you want to make sure that when you work with either toner or hot foiling products that you're using the correct foil. When you cut your foil down, you want it, of course, to be slightly larger than the plate you're going to be working with. I'm going to undock the platform from the base itself, and then I'll lay my card base and the foil on top of that hot plate. Now be careful, the surface of this machine is hot. We're going to go ahead and take the thin shim, which was what we were using when we were heating the machine up, and then also the spacer plate. And I'm going to run this through my platinum die cut machine. Now, if you have a Big Shot or other die cut machines, you may need a shim or something else to help give you a little bit more pressure. It depends on your machine. But check it out. You get this gorgeous foiled effect that has a slight impression to it because we're using a plate that's getting pushed into the paper. And it creates just an amazing effect. One trick to keep in mind, whether you're toner foiling or hot foiling, if you get foil anywhere outside of the area where you were actually trying to foil, use a sand eraser. That usually really helps kind of clean things up and make sure that you don't have any foil where you don't want it. All right, so we've gone through all the techniques. We've gone through 5 ways, actually more than 5 ways to foil, and there's a lot that you can do with this. But why don't we turn some of these into card projects? Because we've already created some amazing pieces that can be used in so many ways. So I have a variety of techniques and ideas to share with you that I think are going to give you some really good ideas for how to use your foiled pieces after you've created them. So I'm first going to do some ink blending. We're going to make a Christmas card with that acetate toner printed sheet that we foiled with the gold foil. I'm going to pull out my Simon Says Stamp new ink blending brushes. I've got both the large and the small. I'm going to be using both of them here for this particular card. And if you noticed, our brushes are really cute. They have our adorable Simon Says Stamp paw print logo on the back side of the brush head, which makes these look absolutely adorable. I'm going to take the Simon Says Stamp Floating Leaves stencil, and I'm going to use some Simon Says Stamp inks to ink blend through it. Our Simon brushes work really well with these inks. They blend like butter, as Laura Basson likes to say, and so smooth, very gentle on your stencils. It's one of the reasons why I love these brushes so much is how gentle they are. The bristles are a premium hair that are just so soft, and they really just blend beautifully. I'm not kidding when I tell you I reach for these constantly now. These are the only brushes I love using. So I'm using the large and the small brushes to create this ink blended background. I'm doing a tone on tone effect. I did Jelly Bean for the base, and now I'm using the smaller brush to bring in Evergreen, and I'm only adding Evergreen in certain areas. I'm just creating some shading on that Jelly Bean color that we applied first. So that's left me with this pretty pattern. I had taped my stencil down to hold it in place. And then I'm going to bring Jelly Bean in once more, and I'm going to add a halo of color around the edges, making sure to leave the middle a bit more white. So that creates a little bit of depth here. So now that we have our background stenciled with the green, I'm going to pull out a polka dot stencil from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to use 2 of the sized dots. These are the smallest of this particular stencil. And I'm just going to carefully use those to create berries for these leaves. Both of these products are not Christmas products. But that's one of the cool things about being a crafter is that you can make them Christmas products. So what I'm doing is I'm making a Christmas background here with 2 completely different stencils that weren't intended to work together, but they look amazing for this card. So I created my berries with some Simon Says Stamp red ink, and now I've pulled out a piece of pattern paper that I'm trimming down to be 1 inch, and I'm gonna create a 1/2 inch score line right down the middle, so that way I can fold this over, and it's going to be a hinge for my card. I'm using a standard white A2 card base, but I want my acetate sheet to be a 3rd layer on top of this card. So this is going to be an overlay for my background. I'm going to attach the pattern paper strip onto my A2 card using our Simon Says Stamp dot runner, which, by the way, if you've not tried out this dot runner, it's really good. It's a really strong adhesive, and we also have refills for this as well. So when you run out, you won't have to worry about being out of adhesive because you'll be able to have refills too. And the dot runner actually comes with 2 refills already. So once I have the pattern paper attached to my card, I also laid the acetate on top of the card base, and I'm sandwiching the other side of the pattern paper over the acetate so it holds it down onto the card base. Finally, I'm going to bring in an embellishment of Rena Snowflake. This is a Simon Says Stamp exclusive die. I cut it from white cardstock, and I'm going to glue it with our craft tacky glue right on the top corner there. And then I used a Lucy's Cards half pearl here, and I'm going to lay that right in the center. It matches up really nice with the berries in the background. All right, so this is card number 1 using that acetate sheet. It's just beautiful, and that foiled effect is just spectacular on top of this card project. One of the many ways that you can use these acetate sheets. Another cool way to use these sheets are to use them as a shaker window. You could attach this to a shaker and have sequins behind here. Oh, that would be so pretty. Okay, so remember how we did our foiling with tape? Why don't we make that one into a card next? I'm going to pull out a Simon Says Stamp Cosmo flower stencil, and I'm laying this right over top of that foil that we had applied onto our card using tape. If you haven't already tried this, foil actually resists ink. So I can take this Simon Says Stamp ink. This happens to be Hot Lips. I used Duckling for the color before. I'm going to add Hot Mama, Blue Violet, Scuba, and even a little Jelly Bean at the end. All these colors I'm applying over top of this stencil, which is on top of the foil. What it's doing is it's going to add the ink onto the white areas of my card, but then it's going to resist the foil that I have already on this card project. And that's one of the cool effects about foil, is that it does resist ink. Now, of course, I can't say that it will resist every type of ink. If you have a more permanent ink, it probably will take it. But most standard dye inks will resist it, and you're going to get this amazing result. So we're going to finish off this card with a sentiment. I pulled out this greeting from a Simon Says Stamp Greeting Mix stamp set. I'm going to ink it up with embossing ink and stamp that down onto some blue violet cardstock. It's a nice rich blue. It's going to pop off of these colors. I embossed this with white embossing powder from Simon Says Stamp. Once I do have this embossed, I will trim this down to be a little sentiment rectangle here, and I'll pop it up off of my card using some foam tape. If you notice here, I do have some sequins. These are from the Simon Says Stamp Make Magic release. This is Tropical and also Magical. I'm going to go ahead and put these down onto my card as well using a bit of glossy accents. And I just popped a few of these here and there around my card project, trying to match them up with the colors that they'll be sitting on top of. But check it out. How amazing does this look? With that foil and then having the flowers spaced in between, it just looks so cool. And the best part is that it allows you to get creative with your inks as you're foiling. So you get this whole new look. And I just think this is an amazing effect for your card projects. Let's jump on over to that card we made with the paste. Remember how we applied that rainbow foil on top of the rainbow background? Well, we're going to turn this into a shaker card. Foil looks amazing with sequins and a shaker. It's a really magical effect. So the first thing we're going to do is take out the packaging that our gold foil came in, and we're going to use this to be our shaker window for our edge-to-edge shaker card. I trimmed my piece of plastic to be just a little bit larger than the card itself, and I'm going to line this up behind my panel. I'm going to lay that panel face down into the plastic, and I'm going to start folding the edges of the plastic over the edges of my panel into the adhesive. We're only going to do that to 3 sides though, because we do need to fill this before we go any further. So once I have 3 of the edges folded over, I'm going to open this up and then I'm going to dump in some sequins. These happen to be some rainbow sequins from Simon Says Stamp. I'm going to dump these in here, and you got to just kind of gauge how many you want. Basically, it's all totally up to you. You can fill this as thick as you want. I decided to dump the rest of these in here just to fill this shaker really, really well. And these match up really nicely with the colors that I used for the foil and also the background. So once we filled up our sequins inside our shaker, the final step is to just fold over that last edge of the plastic into the adhesive. And then we can put this onto a white card base. Check out how those sequins look in here and how they pair up so pretty with that foil in the background. Sequins and foil are just the perfect match. I love them. I'm going to use a Simon Says Stamp and CZ Designs Happy Birthday die. I'm going to go ahead and die cut that from Doll Pink cardstock. I die cut it 3 times, stacked them all together, and then glued the entire stack onto a white shadow layer. I used Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue to adhere everything together, and then I used some foam tape to attach that entire sentiment onto my card. Now I am going to pull out a sentiment strip here. This one I didn't foil because I did want a bit of contrast for this sentiment, so I just used the sentiment black as it was. This is from our reverse All Things Happy sentiment strip pack, and that's going to complete this edge-to-edge shaker, which looks amazing. All right, so the final card project I'm going to walk you through today is creating the finished card for our hot foiled project. This one just screams fall at me. I just love the rich black colors with the warm browns and that copper color for the foil. Oh, it's a beautiful one. All right, so I'm going to take our foiled panel here and I'm just going to put it in a box so I can splatter it with some Distress Spray Stain. This is the Antiqued Bronze. And I'm just going to splatter some droplets of this ink across my background, creating just some really warm dots that are going to pair up really nicely with the color of our foil. Once these dry, they almost look like the exact same color. On the back side of my foil piece, I'm going to put a bit of adhesive from our Simon Says Stamp Dot Runner and lay that onto a piece of copper mirror cardstock. This is from Tim Holtz. And I'm just going to lay that piece layered on top of some Nina Desert Storm, which is my card base. To finish things up, I added just some simple greetings. One's hello from a Simon Says Stamp sentiment pack. I'm going to pop that up with 2 layers of foam tape, and then I used 1 layer for the sentiment sending my love, which was one of our sentiment strips that I foiled with some gold foil. This one happens to be the black printing on a white background. The foiling on this card is what makes this project look so spectacular. This card is so beautiful with all that pretty foil. You don't need to add anything else to this project. It's stunning just the way it is. So in addition to all the projects that I shared with you today, I also finished up these 2 cards that I had used with some of our other foiling techniques. This one here was with the Radiant Hearts that we used the Transfer Gel Duo and did the multicolored foiling. I just added a simple greeting and a few sequins on top of this one. And then my other project was this very colorful card that I had created with the toner sheets that we foiled that rainbow foil on top of. And I added a new die cut greeting from our Simon Says Stamp Make Magic release, which says you're the best. And I paired that up with one of the sentiment strips that I embossed using some gold toner foil. So there you have it, 5+ different ways to use foil. So many different techniques, so many ways that you can create with foil and create amazing, sparkling, shining results. All the techniques that I shared with you today are so versatile and are so much fun. So I hope that you were inspired to break out your foils. Whether you are experienced or not, I think you're going to have a lot of fun creating with the ideas that I've shared with you today. Thank you so much for joining in our 5 ways in 5 days class. I am day 5, but there is some bonus features that you don't want to miss coming up this weekend. So make sure you tune into our Simon Says Stamp blog and YouTube channel for all the details and the creative content, because you're not going to want to miss it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please be sure to give our channel a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you again very soon with more to share. Bye!